everyone. I have a question for you today. If you are a beginner rider, how do you measure your progress? Do you go by different milestones? Do you practice in the parking lot and after your 100th U-turn, you mark that as a completed task or as a completed skill? How do you know that you're going from a beginner or a complete noob to beginner to intermediate to advanced and everything in between? Because I would genuinely like to know. I'll tell you that I've been using different measuring sticks to gauge my own progress. I had a lot of worries in the beginning. I didn't know if I'd be any good. I didn't know if I wanted to continue. And how was I going to transition from being a complete beginner with no experience and who's terrified of getting on my bike every day to someone who's more confident, more comfortable, more skilled, better able to tackle the roads. And I'm still a beginner. I don't think I've 100% mastered everything for sure. I have a lot to learn and it's still a long road ahead of me. But I've noticed that over time I get a little more comfortable every time I get on my bike and a little less nervous. The nerves are still there because, again, this is a dangerous hobby. It's inherently a little more dangerous than driving a car. I think some nerves and a healthy amount of respect is due for a hobby like this. One of the things that I found success with was in measuring my progress over time. And by that I mean, when I was getting my driver's license back a long time ago, the DMV gave me my learner's permit and told me, you have this permit for 12 months minimum, and what you need to do in that time is log all of your drives, and in order to get your license you need to have a minimum of 50 hours, and 10 of those hours have to be at night. And I thought, that's great, because that's an easy directive for me to follow. I can totally do that. And I did. I was so proud of myself because 12 months later I got to the DMV and I had logged all of my rides, how long each one took, who I was with, if it was nighttime or daytime. And it turns out that they didn't actually ask me for it. They didn't need it at all. So I was a little bummed. So when I was learning to ride a motorcycle, I recalled that experience and found how helpful it was for me back then, so I decided to apply that to learning how to ride another vehicle. I was really lucky with this motorcycle because it does have a time counter on it, and it just tells you how long the engine is running, and that was the measuring stick I used to gauge my progress and hit certain milestones by a certain number of hours. So what I would do is I would take a paper calendar, and each day I went for a ride, I would log how much time I was on the bike for. It helped me figure out where I was, how many hours I put on the bike, and it doesn't necessarily matter how many hours you're on the bike. What matters is improving your skills whenever you're on it, maximizing your time. But what I noticed was after each milestone, each, let's say, 10-hour increment, I noticed that I learned a new skill, or I was more comfortable with one thing or another. The first 10 hours, I was absolutely terrified of my bike. It's a really big bike. It's 500 pounds, and I am decidedly not anywhere close to 500 pounds. So it was hard for me to keep upright sometimes. I did drop it a few times within those 10 hours that I logged. It was scary. Let me go through this turn. This is a new road and I am lost. So the first 10 hours was just me practicing in parking lots, going really, really slow. My neighborhood was 30 miles an hour and I think I went 20. I went through all the roundabouts, not roundabouts, I went through all the cul-de-sacs and I did my U-turns in the cul-de-sacs over and over and over again. I think I probably passed the same houses 20 times each day, and I would get waves from my neighbors because they recognized me at that point. Although they were probably annoyed after maybe the 21st time that day, because it's a motorcycle in a fairly quiet neighborhood, although this bike really isn't that loud. So after 20 hours, that's when I wasn't really terrified of my bike, but I was still on single lane roads that were small enough to not have painted lines. I hadn't encountered a light yet. I hadn't encountered 2 lanes of traffic. So it was just a single lane and going around and around in my neighborhood. So after 20 hours is when I decided to do that and go to a stoplight, go to a road that had 2 or 3 lanes on each side, so I could learn how to watch out for cars that are next to me, not just in front and behind. And I was getting a little more comfortable by that point. And then by 30 hours, oh man, I can't even remember. By 30 hours, I wasn't that terrified of my bike anymore, but still a little unsure of myself. I think that's when I got my engine guards put on. That was a lifesaver. After I got my engine guards put on, I felt a lot more comfortable going out there by myself, because then I knew that I could pick up my bike by myself. So 30 hours was when I got more comfortable. So by 40 hours, I was getting more comfortable on my bike, and I felt like I could tackle rush hour traffic. I was making more turns, left turns, right turns. And I know that sounds silly, but making turns is difficult when you're coming from a stop, or you're going from slow speed, or you have to watch out for other people. When I was within that 40 hours, I started to go places. I started to use my bike as a way to get to a destination and not just go around the neighborhood and then come back. I was still using Google Earth to look at all of the corners, all of the turns I'd have to take, the parking lot itself, where I would park. So I was still definitely getting used to being on a bike. By 50 hours, I stopped doing that. I decided to get lost a little more. Instead of just using my GPS to tell me where I'm going, I decided to stop using Google Earth and just go to a place and trust that I could figure out the parking lot situation, because it's really good practice to be in a parking lot. By 50 hours, after 50 hours, I decided to stop counting my... Let's let this guy go. After 50 hours, I decided to stop counting my hours. Even though I stopped counting my hours, I still had that habit that was ingrained in me for the first 50 hours, so I still kind of use my time counter as a way to gauge how long I've been out, and if it's 30 minutes, an hour, hour and a half, I kind of derive a sense of accomplishment from staying out more than an hour. But sometimes I just want to do short rides, and that is a-okay. I actually should be turning left here. Oh well, we're gonna go straight and get lost. Told you I'm lost. That's half of the fun of being on a motorcycle. It's getting lost. So that's been one of the things that I use to gauge my progress, is to see how much I can accomplish, or what I could reasonably accomplish within that time. Ooh, a brewery. Definitely don't want to partake in that on this journey. If you have a story about how you learned how to ride a motorcycle, let me know. So if you have a story, let me know, or if you just want to say hi, put that in the comments, and I will catch you in the next one. All right, stay safe.